Hello everyone, and welcome to the final Icing on the Skate podcast of the season. How's it going everyone? So, yeah, it's me again. You might notice that Chris has changed a little bit. He's had a lot of surgery. He was looking at Max last week and he thought, you know what, I want to look exactly like him. So he decided to do some work, have some surgery done. So yeah, no, Chris is on holiday today. He decided to take the week off in the most important week of the season of this podcast. I'm not holding it against him. I'm definitely holding it against him. But there you go. That's the commitment that Chris has to this podcast. But anyway, I'm joined by Max, of course. So he was on last week, of course, you might remember. So yeah, we've got some EIHL stuff to talk about. It's kind of the playoff episode today, really. We've got playoffs in the Elite League, we've got playoffs in the NHL, it's just all playoffs, really. So, I think we need to start with the big news, Max, and that is, of course, the playoff finals weekend. So for those of you who were living under a rock as Elite League fans over the last few days, over the weekend, the Elite League playoff finals took place at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham. The two semi-finals were Belfast against Guildford, and Belfast took a 2-1 victory there. And then the second semi-final was the Nottingham Panthers against the Cardiff Devils. And Cardiff took a 9-4 victory, I want to say, over the Nottingham Panthers. I did watch it live, and it was awful. But yeah, so then the final was Belfast versus Cardiff. And the Cardiff Devils managed to take the victory, a 2-1 win against the Belfast Giants, which was incredible. I must admit, I watched the game and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was one of the best well, it's certainly, I would argue, one of the better playoff finals I've seen. I've definitely seen the last three, because I saw Sheffield win it in double OT. That was a pretty good one 2 years ago. Then Cardiff won it last year, and they won it again this year. So I believe that's the fourth trophy that the Cardiff Devils have won in the last 2 seasons. Which is mental when you think about it. They may have won another cup there somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's 4 in the last 2. So Cardiff Devils fans will be like, actually, it's this. So the main reason I wanted to bring Max on this week is because, 1, Chris isn't here, and 2, because he was actually at playoff finals weekend, or around the rink at the time during playoff finals. So I thought it would be a really good idea to get somebody that was there, their perspective on the whole thing. So, Max, playoff finals weekend. Just say whatever you want. Your thoughts.
Well, free range to go. I like so. The best weekend in hockey. It was fantastic. It's always fantastic. Even if you go alone, if you go with a friend, if you go with a group of you, there's always you always meet new people, find things to do, and it's always a fantastic atmosphere. The games, there was only one game that was a letdown. Well, technically 2 because of the third place playoff, but nobody really cares about that game.
That's just a fun game.
It's not. I'll be honest with you, it's not even a fun game.
Really?
It's just two teams. It's 2 teams that don't really want to play,
right,
and shouldn't really have to play to fill a gap of time until the final. The arena is half empty, if that. It's barely even a third full. Because most of the people are either hungover from the night before, can't be bothered to go and watch the hockey, or
especially if it's a team they don't like or are not interested in that are playing against each other. Yeah,
like Sheffield Steelers fans aren't going to sit in an arena and watch the Nottingham Panthers and the Guildford Flames play a game that doesn't mean anything or have any relevance to.
You mean the Sheffield Steelers don't like the Nottingham Panthers? What?
There's a rumour going around.
There's a little bit.
But the two teams that were at the top of the table got to the final game, and that's the way it should have been. And I feel like the Devils kind of got a bit of vindication for losing the league.
Yeah.
Technicality. It was kind of technicality for regulation, and then go and win it in regulation 2-1 against the Devils. On a fantastic goal against Gleeson Fournier.
Yeah, Gleeson Fournier. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. I watched it back on social media today. It was awesome. It really was an awesome goal. He picks it up in his own. It picks up in his own deep in his own defensive zone. Makes one pass once he gets into the neutral zone out wide, gets it straight back again, and then just kind of does a little backhand forehand deep and slips it 5-hole on Vesco Awani, who I got told by the Giants fan I was watching it with in the pub in Saltbox that all season all the Giants fans wanted to do was just put a piece of extra material to stop Vesco Awani's 5-hole being so open.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it was good fun. It was a fantastic weekend. If anybody is ever thinking of coming to do a hockey weekend anywhere,
which I am very much doing at some point, it's on my list of things to do. Absolutely.
It's for Nottingham fans and for hockey fans, whether your team's like playing in it or not, it's still a great weekend. But then from a Panthers perspective or any other team, if you've got a double header in Belfast, that's one definitely to go and check out.
Yeah.
If you're doing 3 and 3 in Scotland, it's a bit of travel and a lot of time moving around and stuff. But still, I hear nothing but fantastic things from that weekend. 3 days up there, so like there's plenty of fun stuff to be happening in British ice hockey.
Absolutely. And speaking of Tyler Beskorowany that you mentioned, the final game, the 2-1 Cardiff Devils victory over Belfast, the goaltenders stole the show in that without a doubt. I usually do. Yeah, by looking at when I was watching the game, Ben Bounds, without a doubt, he single-handedly won that game for Cardiff. His performance was incredible. But from what I saw, Belfast threw everything they could at Ben Bounds. And, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if Ben Bounds came out with a shutout in that game. It's kind of one of those things that it's like, you could fully expect him to get a shutout just by how fantastically he was playing. But at the same time, like, I very much felt that once Belfast got one, I felt like they could have got another. Like, they just needed the floodgates to open a little bit, and then they've got that confidence of getting that first goal to go, okay, we can actually do this. Considering how well Ben Bounds had played the entire game, you know that you're not going to get many chances to score against a goaltender like that. I mean, we can, throwing sort of the semi-final game aside where there were so many goals scored, when it's against the wire, Ben Bounds, he proved himself, I think, as he's still the best Great British goaltender in the league and perhaps in the world, I would argue, in terms of Great British goaltenders. I think he did an incredible job. He, without a doubt, won that game for the Cardiff Devils. I was stunned by how well he played in that game. Because there were some times where shots were going towards him and they were kind of weak attempts, and you were thinking, oh, okay, because to start the game, it was very much Belfast central, taking pot shots against Bounds, trying to get some sort of offense early in the game, establish their game plan. As the game went on, it tilted in each team's favour at certain points, absolutely. But just every time Ben Bounds had the puck come against him, he was just there. He was ready, you know?
Yeah, there was even one where I even jumped up and celebrated because I thought that the Belfast Giants players were celebrating, and he gloved it out the air, and it took me two replays for me to actually catch him saving that goal. It was like an open cage. It was ridiculous. The one that got past him was a shot from the point through about 2, maybe 3 players. Yeah, and I'm guessing that he didn't see it.
Yeah, which you can't really fault him for that, can you?
No, exactly. I'm pretty sure I went through at least 2 Cardiff Devils players and maybe 1 Giants player who was in front as well. And I said from about 5 minutes in, I turned to my girlfriend and said, if Giants score first, they'll have it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Because they would have shocked the Devils. Because I think the Devils were like, right, we're going to go in, we're going to absolutely smash it. Yeah. We're going to right the wrong of what's happened in the league. And prove that we're
essentially.
Yeah, we're going to prove that we deserved. You know, we did all we could, or we deserved to be top of the table, and it was a really, really good game, really good.
Yeah,
right. for a 2-1 scoreline, really good game.
I think I think any sort of Elite League fan that's relatively kept up with how the league has gone this year, this is kind of the ideal matchup for a final. You know, Cardiff, Belfast, they had the same amount of points in the regular season. Belfast won the league by a couple of regulation wins. Like, we're talking about it's inches between these two teams. And I put out a tweet about it as well, being like, this was such a great showcase of how great the sport, or how great the league has come. Because I've watched it for a couple of years on and off. I watched it properly from last year.
Yeah.
I've also heard from you and Chris on previous podcasts, and sort of from the commentators and previous people in the league, how different the league used to be. Sort of even just sort of like half a decade ago, for example, and to see sort of how far we've come from that sort of, oh, there needs to be a fight every game, and we're a bunch of enforcers, and we're basically all the enforcers that the NHL don't want anymore, all the North American leagues are moving away from. We've kind of taken that mentality as well, with the speed and skill, as opposed to you just have to be big and be able to punch somebody, which I think is great. We're trending in the right direction with the rest of the hockey world. And I think, yeah, the Elite League still has a very long way to go. It still has a lot of hurdles to overcome. But I think, in terms of the on-ice product, it's very much taking steps in the right direction. I think it's time for the off-ice product to now catch up, you know? That's something we could discuss for an hour, you know, sort of what needs to be done off the ice. But I think the on-ice product is definitely paving the way, you know?
Yeah, and... yeah, I mean, the games this weekend, the games throughout the league campaign has definitely proven that. It's just, like you and Chris have said every single week, like, it gets more competitive, Yeah. There is still a lot to be done, and I'm pretty sure somebody will cover it somewhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can't... There's so much you could discuss in that topic that you just can't. You don't know where to start.
No,
you don't really know where to start. I did go to the fans forum on the Sunday morning.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I did want to know if you'd have been to that.
Yeah, I did. We had Todd Kelman, Omar Pasha, who, if you don't know who Omar Pasha is, go and give him a Google. He has got some hockey history.
Yeah,
he's funny, intelligent. He's a very, very switched on human being, and he's good for British ice hockey.
Good.
Fantastic. I'd say fantastic. Pete Russell was up there alongside Corey Nielsen, who I believe is doing the assistant coaching for Team GB.
You are correct.
So that's why I was trying to figure out why Corey was over, and I was like, that makes sense.
I think because like his DL season had ended, like even if he wasn't the assistant of GB, they probably would have tried to get him on anyway.
Yeah.
So what sort of questions were asked at the fan forum? And what sort of responses did we get?
Amazingly, they stayed away from webcasts. I was going to stick my hand up in the air and bring it up, but I thought probably best just to. I think
that's more specifically for like a Panthers fan forum, you know, because most of the teams do offer them.
I know, and there's only like there's 2 or 3 teams that don't do it. I think
it's the Neil Black teams that don't.
It's the 2 Neil Black teams and Guildford, because I don't think they've had time to set it up just yet.
No.
But then my question would have been, why doesn't the Elite League set up like the AHL does, or like the NHL does, and have an app or a web, or their main website just do a blanket broadcast? Why doesn't the league just take that over for league revenue and then supplement the teams? But that was going to be my question, but it wasn't. They got asked, would the playoffs ever move from Nottingham? And Todd Kelman categorically turned around and said, until there's a better option, he doesn't see it. He doesn't see it moving because the contract was up this season. This last year on the most recent contract. I can see that being renewed because it's a central place to get to. Belfast can fly over. Scotland can train down if they want, or even fly down. Like the central hub of UK hockey is Nottingham. The rink is a stone's throw from the city centre. There's umpteen amount of hotels for all the fans to park themselves in.
Right near the arena as well.
Exactly. So within walking distance of town and the arena. Yeah. Even ones that are slightly outside of the city, it's 2-minute.
On the tram.
Car journey or a tram journey, exactly.
The trams are lovely in Nottingham. They're great.
Yeah, and they work like
Yeah, and they
fantastically
work, which is great.
Yeah.
Just regarding that, and there's something else, quite a noticeable event that I want to talk about within the game, and just sort of within the actual final game itself that we'll move on to in a moment. But while we're on the subject of the fan forum, I think that's a good point with the would it move outside of Nottingham. I think the only other place, whilst I don't think it would move there, the only sort of logical place at this moment in time, if they had to move it, would be the Fly DSA Arena in Sheffield, I would argue, just because of the proximity. However, it's not as much of like built into the local infrastructure as the West Point Arena.
So Todd Coleman went over this. He said there's 2 other venues, or potentially 3 other venues that it would go to, and that is Sheffield, but it's too far outside of town.
Okay, yeah, fair.
It's not central to the city, so getting to and from the rink. I mean, they have that entertainment place, but it can only hold so many people, and all it is restaurants and a movie complex, a cinema.
Yeah.
So Sheffield is a bit, maybe not. Belfast is an option. But again, he said the arena's in the right place. There's the right amount of hotels.
I think that's more the travelling, because for example, all it would take is for something to happen to the flights, and then none of the teams could turn up.
Yeah, and he did say like maybe not have it there every year, but maybe have it like once every 5 years there.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd be on board for that, because the SSE Arena is lovely.
Oh, it's beautiful. I haven't been yet. It's on my to-do list. It's on my double header list to do. But I know I've got a lovely bunch of Belfast fans. Hence why I've got a jersey and everything else from the team. So yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about it, as well as the bar that's there as well, Rocky's. If you want to go and geek out on hockey memorabilia, that's a good place to get to.
Nice.
Rocky's bar. I'll give them a quick shout.
So what other fan forum questions, like any other key ones that are worth mentioning? Because I'm genuinely interested in these.
They spent a bit of time talking about the Riesling hit on Evan Mosey.
Okay.
Which was interesting, and they gave the mic straight to Corey Nielsen, and now Corey Nielsen is no longer affiliated with British Ice Hockey apart from the GB team. He's not part of any team.
Yeah.
He was quite candid, and kind of brought his personality out, which I thought was quite nice, because he doesn't usually bring that out in the media. I'm pretty sure they filmed it. I'll try and give you the link later to tweet out.
Yeah, please do.
So I know the cameras were there, so it might be on the Elite League YouTube channel.
Right.
So Corey, they asked the question: if Jaden Riesling was on your team, he was your defender, he made that play, and he comes back to the bench, what do you say to him? And Corey Nielsen's response was, "We'll take the suspension." Yeah. And they said 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that'd have been a clean, open mid-ice hit.
Yeah.
But now, because it's close to hitting the head, there was concussion and injury afterwards, the guy gets a suspension.
Yeah.
And Corey Nielsen says, even if he was the player, that's the play that has to happen.
Yeah.
And it got moved down. Everyone was saying it's a hockey play. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that the rules are now. That because somebody gets injured, it gets reviewed, and somebody's going to end up with a ban out of it.
It's kind of walking on a tightrope, something like that, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, aren't you?
Yeah, and Todd Kelman came out at the end and said, at the end of this end of the row,
it
went along that way, and he said, they slow these videos down almost frame by frame.
Yeah.
And in the split, in the time it takes to get from frame to frame, the player can't change his decision. He's made that decision from 5 meters away.
Yeah.
He's going to go, right, I'm going to get in, I'm going to hit this guy, because it's a full contact game.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit it, because that's my job.
Absolutely.
If he doesn't do that, if he doesn't make that play, like we said before, Evan Mosey goes in and scores, changes the whole complexion of the game.
And then Panthers fans are going to be pissed off at Riesling for not making that play.
Exactly, and if not, maybe the coach as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was still Sherman as.
Yeah, I think it was. It was near Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure. So he definitely would have turned around and said, "Why didn't you hit him?"
Play? Yeah.
Yeah, everyone would have said, "Why didn't you hit him?" And he said, Thomas Cod turned around and said, Todd Cameron, I'll get my words out. Yeah, going frame by frame. He's not going to stop hitting him and then hug him.
Yeah,
because it's not like he's that's there's no frame of time frame that you can judge. It's just
and it's not as if wrestling can pause time and then see what's going on and go, oh, actually, I probably shouldn't make that play. You know,
yeah,
like he's got to commit to it because they're on skates and the momentum's going to take them anyway. You know, so
yeah,
absolutely. Any other interesting questions from the fan forum?
I'm probably butchering most of the answers, so I would employ everybody to go and watch the video. Those are the two for me that stood out the most.
Okay.
They spoke to who was the last member up there? The guy we're going to move on to in a minute, Pete Russell.
Yes.
Head coach of GB. He was up there with Corey. Omar Pasha was the other guy, and then Todd Kelman. There was a guy from the media side of the Elite League giving some questions, and then
was that Luke Fisher
relaying it. I didn't catch his name.
Okay.
If I saw a picture, I'll be able to.
He's essentially from what we've seen halfway through the season, like he's the media guy of the Elite League.
Yeah, it changed from a couple of seasons ago because the guy who was doing it before. Okay, I'm guessing this Luke Fisher guy's a very, very lovely person, but the other guy was just as good as I remember.
Yeah, I think they appointed like this is our media guy for the Elite League kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
We mentioned it in like one of the first 10 podcasts or something when it was originally announced.
Oh yeah, I've stepped since then.
Oh, there you go. One thing I want to mention about the game, going back to it, just a couple of things before we get to the big sort of topic of discussion of the game that I think has continued since the game happened, and for good reason to an extent. But I'm going to put my stamp on that. We'll get to that in a second. Fair play to Guildford. I think Guildford did incredibly well. I don't think any Guildford fan should feel disappointed with how the season went. Taking it, they lost by a goal again to Belfast. Like, to come against a team that won the league and has won the Challenge Cup against them in overtime, to lose by a goal in the semi-final, like, I still stand by Guildford. They have done an absolutely incredible job since joining the Elite League, and I really do hope it continues. I honestly think that Paul Dixon was robbed of Coach of the Year. Like, Adam Keefe, I get it, but Paul Dixon, I think he deserved it way more. That's personal opinion. I can there could be a case made for several others and for Adam Keefe, of course, who won it. I think though the sort of the budget and the standard of sort of players and sort of the history of players that the Belfast Giants had. Like, they had players that played in the NHL, they had players that played hundreds of games in the AHL. Of course, Guildford had some of them as well, but let's be honest, most of the Guildford team were relative no-names. Like, let's be honest here. In terms of you can argue some of the Belfast players as well, of course, but they weren't expected to get to the Challenge Cup final, get top 5 in the league, or make it to playoff finals weekend, and they did it. So every single week we've done this, but I want to give a big shout out to the Guildford Flames. Like, they are still one of my favourite teams in the Elite League, and I honestly hope that I want to see Paul Dixon get a bit of a better budget and a bit of a better chance to be able to make a bigger stamp with that team. Of course, there's so many things that go into it, and because Guildford are of course joined the league just 2 years ago now that this season's done. But yeah, I am so impressed. Paul Dixon has done a fantastic job with that team, and I want to see them carry on. I want to see them win some silverware next year. I think that they need it. I think that'd be so great. Paul Dixon, he was absolutely robbed of the Coach of the Year. Adam Keefe, great coach, as you can see by 2 trophies out of the 3. But if we're going for the coach that really surpassed expectations, like Paul Dixon, without a doubt. And of course, he's been known to have a solid caliber of... he's got a great resume as well, so... but the one thing... So going back to the actual game itself, the final game, the grand final... 2-1 Cardiff Devils victory over the Belfast Giants. I think the most controversial thing and the most talked about thing in that game was, of course, the hit on Darcy Murphy. And that's been talked about a lot. Whether it's Devils fans going, it was a clean hit. I mean, it sucks that he got injured on it, absolutely, but it was a clean hit. He shouldn't have been penalised on the play. Two Belfast Giants fans getting quite incensed by it and going, you basically injured our best player. He's our top point scorer all year. I mean, and then they've essentially, some of them, not all of them, of course, I'm not going to put all fans into one bracket, but some fans have blamed that for the fact that they lost. Like, we were missing our top scorer. Here's my opinion on it, and Max, you'll be able to give your opinion afterwards, whether it differs or is similar at all. Yeah. It was a clean hit. Belfast fans, shut up. You lost fair and square. It sucks that Darcy Murphy got hit. It looks like he's got a concussion, and that's awful. Like, I don't think... I can't remember who hit him. I think it was... Scheistel. I think it was Scheistel. I'm not quite sure, though.
Yes.
I think it was Scheistel.
Yeah, the target was back afterwards.
Yeah, and Belfast fans booed him every single time he touched the puck for the rest of the game. I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't think Scheistel had intent to cause a hit on the head. I think... From looking at the replays, and they didn't take it frame by frame, of course, because we're not the DOPS, but it was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit, and then he went down. He may have gone down head first, but he went down, and he was injured on the play. That sucks. Like, I think fans from both sides agree. Like, I don't think Devils fans, like, they wouldn't want Darcy Murphy to be out. Like, they want the best Belfast team to play against the best Cardiff team to see who is the legitimate playoff champion. Like, you don't want this sort of caveat that goes, playoff champion, because they hit out the other team's top scorer. Like, nobody wants to be remembered for that, you know? I'm going to say this now, Belfast Giants fans. I'm going to say this absolutely now. It was a clean hit. Stop crying about it. I've seen so many Belfast fans cry about it on social media. I don't know if I have any Belfast fans listening. They probably listen to A View from the Bridge anyway. But it was a clean hit. Get over it. Like, there was no intent to injure. It was a shoulder-to-shoulder collision. There's no penalty on the play. There was no penalty on the play, and there shouldn't be a penalty on the play. Why? Because it was a clean hit. It was a clean hit that had really shit consequences. I agree. I didn't want to see Darcy Murphy get injured. I thought he played really well. I thought he was doing quite well up until then. He did take a massive break in the first period, come back out for a shift towards the end of the first period. But after that, he was done. I'm pretty sure the league were like, nope, you're going to get tested for concussion protocol. We're going to do the right thing here, do the safe thing, which is the right thing to do. So fair play on the Elite League, or whoever said that they needed to do that, fair play. And who's mentioned... XIZLZOG, different angles show different things. No, it was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit. You're allowed to disagree, but I'm going to disagree with you. Like, I've seen all the angles that they've shown us. It was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit. It may look like his head went back because it'd just been hit in the shoulders. Like, his head, the force was going backwards because he'd been hit, you know? I don't think that was a head collision. And I think Belfast, if fans are going to go, oh, well, that's why we lost. No, you lost because Ben Bounds played fucking incredibly. He was the best player on that ice for the whole 60 minutes of the game, you know? I just don't understand where this thought process comes from. I can understand that Belfast fans would be upset by that. But to say that it was intentional and to say that that's the reason they lost, both bullshit arguments. They're wrong. I'm sorry. Like, it was a great game. A 1-goal difference game. That's all it took to win. And you lost. It sucks. You won 2 other trophies this year. You've done all right for yourselves. You and Cardiff took all the trophies this year. It's okay. So, that's my thoughts on it. Belfast fans, get over yourself. And then I saw something on Free Sports. Apparently, somebody from the Free Sports Twitter team posted a tweet about the hit or something earlier this morning, and it pissed off a lot of people. I didn't actually see the tweet.
No, it's down.
Yeah, I if anybody did see the tweet in the chat, do tell us what it said, because I'd be really interested to know what was said there. Because then all I saw was the apology they came out with. It's like, oh, the person that posted the tweet didn't understand the sort of implications behind it. No, like, of course, I'm going to preface that by saying I don't know what he said, but I mean, come on, like, we live in a world nowadays where everybody finds offence over everything, and everyone has to cancel everything if they feel upset by it. If you feel offended by something, that's fine. Like, just feel offended. Doesn't mean anything has to change. But that's a completely different topic for a completely different podcast and a completely different thing. So, Max, I'll finally come to you. Your thoughts on the hit?
Yeah, I got to watch it a few times. Obviously, I was watching the game in the pub. It was a heavy hit. I'll give it that. It was a heavy hit, and it happened really damn quickly. I think the puck got it was along the boards. It kind of got squirted out, and then Darcy Murphy's coming wheeling round, picks up the puck in the space of him picking the puck up and maybe taking one stride. He has a guy on him, and it's just. I think the only penalty that he could potentially be called for is charging, but he clearly didn't skate through the guy.
No,
he wasn't moving his feet whilst he was hitting him.
No.
Darcy Murphy, on the angles that I've seen, he goes down, his shoulder hits the ice, and his head whips and hits the floor. So
yeah, that's probably where the concussion has come from.
Right there.
Yeah.
There's your concussion. Good, fair enough if he wants to try and get back on the ice. I think he had 2 shifts after that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure either their trainers or Adam Keefe would have told him just, no, go sit down. It's for your own health. We'll battle on without you. Something that XIZLZOG, Keefe was crying about it. He's a coach. He's going to stick up for his team. He was that passionate. He showed passion. Is what he did.
He showed
he screamed about it. He screamed about it. He did that as a player. He laid heavy hits as a player. So he's gonna let the rest know about it. He wants to have his team have the best opportunity to win. And to be honest with you, Ben Bounds stole it for the Devils. So the Giants threw everything. I think they outshot them by at least 10 goals on the final stats.
I think somebody mentioned it was like 36-18 or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think the Devils. Yeah, I know Giants were definitely over 30, and the Devils were like mid to early 20s.
Yeah,
on shot. Like the Devils had their opportunities.
Yeah,
they were stolen by Ben Bounds, or they hit the post, or they squeaked away, or they got blocked.
Yep.
And you can't pin it all on. Yes, you have your go-to guys, but you can't pin a winning on or losing on the fact that you have or don't have a player.
And going off that, I don't think anybody thinks the Belfast Giants are a one-player team. Like they're not the Edmonton Oilers, are they? Like, come on. They have Shields, they have Bourne. Like, they've got several guys that were in like the top 10 or 15 of scoring this year. To be fair, Darcy Murphy was their leading scorer. He was the leading scorer of the league, I'm pretty sure, in goals throughout the entire year. So, of course, that's going to suck. Yeah, of course it is. Like, you lose one of your top players, absolutely. But then again, if you want to take that tact, the Nottingham Panthers were missing Robert Farmer and Stevie Lee in the semi-final. Whilst I don't think that would have made a huge difference in the final scoreline, like, they're 2 key roster players on the team that they were without. So, by that logic, you could be like, oh, well, they were missing those players, that's why they lost. It's not how it works.
No. But then we also had, just to kind of throw it out there as well, I know Tommy Hughes left the game. And yes, it does disrupt things, like not having Farmer playing with Pelini and Stewart. That was, by the end of the season, like the last 2 weeks of the season, that was our most effective line as Panthers. Like, you split that up, and this kind of leads on to another thing as well. I don't understand why nobody was told. Nobody was told until the announcement came over the tannoy, or the game announcer said players not playing, or changes to the starting lineups, and they called Robert Farmer, and they called who else was missing, and then Stevie Lee. They go through and say, "Oh, scratch this player off because he's not playing."
Yeah.
But nobody knew about it until the person in the arena made the announcement before the game.
To be fair, Stevie Lee we did know about, because they mentioned a couple of weeks ago, like he went to hospital for treatment. Robert Farmer less so. Like, you make a fair point there.
Yeah, I'm sure there was somebody else that we were missing. There was Farmer. Hughes left during the game.
I know Henderson was playing, so it wasn't him.
I know Kovacs was in, but he's been out, and I want to get to that and something else later on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I completely forgot Kovacs was on the team.
Exactly.
I genuinely completely forgot. I have been relatively keyed up with the Panthers this year, considering they are like my go-to team in the Elite League. And until you mentioned his name, I genuinely forgot that Justin Kovacs was on the team. And I'm quite good at knowing players on certain teams.
He was. Yeah. He did. I'm pretty sure he didn't play for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
He didn't play again.
And when he did play, he was almost invisible. To sum up that sort of talk about the hit, it was a clean hit. Belfast, it sucks, but that's the sport. It happens. Cardiff, it happened, you know? Like, nobody wants to see a guy like Darcy Murphy get injured. I think least of all the Cardiff Devils. Like, sure, they take out the other team's top scorer, but I from what I've seen about most hockey players' mentalities, especially a team like the Cardiff Devils, they want to play against the best of the best in the final, because they want to know that they are the best. They want to know that they are the team that can beat any other team in the league. They don't want to play against a team that's absolutely banged up in the final to go, oh, well, we won, it's a sympathy win, or we won because the other team was really injured. Like, they won against they won against Belfast because they were the better team on the night. And arguably for quite a lot of the season, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe ignore those last few weeks where they completely bottled it for the regular season championship, but we won't talk about that, will we, Ben? So that's to do with the final game. Do you want to talk about the Panthers-Devils game in any detail? Because I'm absolutely happy to gloss over it, because it was shit. But if you want to talk about it, by all means.
I'll say a little bit on it in the fact that it was shocking. I don't think I've ever seen, apart from the joke of a third place playoff game where it's usually up into the double figures on goals, because the goalies don't really want to pull a groin, or no player wants to go too hard. It's like an all-star game almost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The third place playoff. Nobody really wants to. This is like a skill show, which it probably should be, if I'm honest. But anyway, that I've never seen that many goals in a semi-final.
No.
It was unfortunate. It was a shame. To say how they. I went to the Panthers Awards night as I'm part of a sponsorship with the team as a team sponsor, and it was just the way they were talking about. Oh, we want to get 5. We want to get into the weekend. We want to win this final trophy, and then they don't turn up on the weekend that it really matters. It was sad to watch. Do
you know what? That's kind of summed up their season to me. Like, they're all talk. They were all talk this year.
Yeah.
They're all talk. We wanna compete for the trophies. We wanna be a force to be reckoned with within the Elite League. And when it actually happens, they're like, nah, fuck it, can't be arsed. Or they just get trampled over by a superior team, or a far superior team like Cardiff, you know.
Or even a less superior team, because they think they can just walk the game when they go against Dundee, or they go against a team that's been losing a lot, like Guildford was in the mid, throughout the season.
Well, I mean, they lost 5-1 to Milton Keynes, for fuck's sake.
Exactly.
Because I bought the live stream to that game, and you know, like how, of course, whenever you see your team lose, you're kind of like, like, to an extent you can be like, I mean, I wish I didn't spend that £10 to see them lose, you know? But then again, if it's a close game, you're like, that sucks, but I'm glad that I watched it, and, you know, like, it happens. Yeah. It's hockey. No team goes undefeated in a sport like hockey ever, you know? But that game, like, I was genuinely disgusted. Like, I was like, this is the worst. I mean, I've seen a fair few Panthers games this year. That was the worst game they've played all year, without a doubt.
Yeah,
that was the worst game. The problem is they got completely embarrassed on their home ice by a far superior team. I think that summed up who the league's top dogs were at the moment. The Panthers were not a top team in the league this year. They got third. It's because they had a decent start and then they completely fell apart for the rest of the year. And they had some decent run-ins with some weaker teams towards the end of the year. They've got into Europe because they had the good start and other teams couldn't catch them. Third place in the league, third place in the playoffs. Just like, I'm not expecting a team like the Panthers to win trophies every year. Like, I don't think it's fair for fans to expect a team to win a trophy every year. That's just not the way sports work. I mean, if it happens, then absolutely, like, don't take it for granted. Cardiff, Belfast, etc., because there will be times when they don't. But yeah, I just thought, I was so disappointed in that game. I was like, I could have done, like, I genuinely wish that I watched the Belfast-Guildford game instead. You know?
Yeah.
And when the team that you try and support the most is doing that to you, like, that's bad. That's really bad. Just a couple of notes on the Panthers. I hope they hire a coach that knows how to coach the modern day Elite League for once. That'd be nice. Rissling should not be back on that team whatsoever. I wouldn't mind seeing Munson back. I'd quite like to see Patrick Munson back. I think, barring the Cardiff game where he got completely hung out to dry by his defense on multiple occasions, I think that I'd like to see him back if he wants to be back, because of course it looks like Michael Garnett isn't coming back. We're not quite sure what's going on there. One place I saw reported that he's not coming back, but then again he's like, oh, is there a chance for me to come back? I don't know. I'm not too sure about Garnett though in general. He was good. I will forever remember his performance in the Champions Hockey League last year. Like, definitely. I'm not going to take that away from him. He was incredible he got us to that point. But after then, and because you mentioned last year or earlier this year, like, he wasn't expecting to be the starting goaltender for that long, or he was expecting to get less starts. Like, that goes into it as well. But yeah, I was so disappointed in that game. Fair play to Cardiff. They executed their game plan perfectly. They deserved that win. Absolutely. They played far better than the Panthers did. But yeah. So, yeah, that was a look at the playoff finals weekend. We've got a few pieces of Elite League news to discuss. We haven't really got a huge amount of topics. That's why we discussed the playoff finals in quite a lot of detail. So the next thing I wanted to move on to was the end of season awards. However, the Elite League, if somebody has a list of the winners, that would be really helpful. Because the Elite League have gone, oh, here's a news article on all of the people that won the awards, and then they've linked like a 20-minute long video. I don't really want to sit there and watch that whole video right now just to tell you. From the ones that I do know, I believe Tyler Beskorowany won the Netminder of the Year. I believe. I believe Adam Keefe won Coach of the Year. Yeah, Ben, if you have the program, do tell us. We can jump back to this afterwards. We'll move on to the European qualifiers. This is just a reminder. Yeah. So we'll talk about the end of season awards in a moment. So yes, European qualifiers. This was due to the results last night or last weekend. This weekend, I guess you could say. We've now got clarification of who's taking part in which European tournaments for the 1920 season. We're almost at 2020. Jesus. So the Champions Hockey League, of course, we have the Belfast Giants and the Cardiff Devils. The Belfast Giants were the national champions. They won the league and they were the runners-up in the EIHL Continental Cup because the team that won the Continental Cup couldn't take part. So Belfast got that anyway. Then the Cardiff Devils are also taking part in the Champions Hockey League. So after a year of just Cardiff in the Champions Hockey League, we've got both Belfast and Cardiff taking place in the Champions Hockey League. Cardiff were the league runners-up, but because Belfast had their place in the Champions Hockey League due to the Continental Cup, and because they came first in the league, the actual first place in the league one goes to the runner-up, which was Cardiff. And then for the Continental Cup, which we've had a team in for the last few years, the Nottingham Panthers are returning to the Continental Cup because they took third place in the league. So Belfast and Cardiff taking place in the Champions Hockey League. the Nottingham Panthers in the Continental Cup. So 3 teams going to Europe for the 1920 season, which will be great. I do like to keep tabs on the Elite League teams, especially in the Champions Hockey League. I'll probably keep tabs more on the Continental Cup this year as a Panthers fan, but is there anything you want to mention? Anything you think will be interesting to look at regarding those 3 teams next year?
Well, because Panthers won the Continental Cup 2 years ago now?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, that's flown by.
Because Belfast... well, are we including this year just gone?
I would assume so because the season's over. So yes.
Yeah, because it was Belfast this year just gone, Sheffield the year before, and then Nottingham, I think.
Yeah. So and then Sheffield had an awful time. If I remember in the Champions Hockey League, I felt really bad for them actually. They went in there with some big guns and then got absolutely trounced, unfortunately.
Sheffield have never been to the Champions Hockey League, have they?
No, yes, they have actually.
Have they?
Yeah, they've been to the CHL, but then the year they went to the Continental Cup, after the Panthers won it, they got they were hyping it up, saying we're going to be the next British team to win it, and they got absolutely.
Yeah, I think they got taken out of the quarterfinals. Yeah,
they got spanked, but because the Panthers won it, we moved up a stage compared to when we were before then. We got a later round start. Like a lot of the FA Cup, bigger teams or more successful teams get a later buy-in. They got more chance of winning it. It's some really good hockey. If you get a chance to have a look on social media, keep up to date, or there's definitely webcasts all over the place. If you've got the money and you want to go and travel, I know the travelling fans of the Panthers are always keen to increase their numbers, and they always go out there with good showing. It's always good fun, and they do enjoy themselves. And you go out when you go out there, it's not just for one game like the CHL, like the Champions Hockey League.
Yeah,
you go out there for a full weekend of 3 games. You're playing a group of 4. I think the first one that we get into, I think it's 1 goes through or 2 go through to the final, and then we're into the super final. Potentially this year, the super final could be held in Nottingham.
That's a good point. Yeah, because they had the semi-finals, didn't they, when they won, and then the final. I thought it was. Yeah.
No, we tried to host it. Belfast hosted the super finals when they hosted a round.
Right.
Hosted the final.
Okay.
We hosted a round a fair few years ago. We hosted a round then. I've got a puck of it, I think.
Okay.
2013.
Right.
Panthers hosted a round of the Continental Cup. So hopefully we can get it back.
That'd be nice.
Have it in our own building. Hopefully the super final will be there to win the dish tray.
I've got one somewhere.
Yes, the turkey tray for the oven.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's been weird the qualifications. As soon as a British team gets in from the Continental Cup, it all kind of throws it out of whack because you're like, oh, Belfast has gone through, so their place in the league doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But then they go and win the league and like, oh well, they're into the CHL then, or they've already made it. Okay, so the second place team gets it.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion regarding like who was what was happening.
Because the Devils at some point were so far ahead. It's like, oh yeah, well they basically booked themselves a place in the CHL. Then they dropped to second by the last day, and you're like, I'm thinking like, well, does that drop them out of the CHL? Does that?
Yeah.
And because Giants won the Challenge Cup, third place gets to go to the Continental Cup. As much as I'm happy that Panthers are doing it, I'm a bit bitter about the fact that Guildford didn't give it a go.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have won it, but I think they would have raised the profile of Guildford, raised the profile of hockey in that place, and it really could have been something special for them. So fingers crossed next year.
Yeah. The chance for Guildford to maybe the city of Guildford to maybe invest in the team a little bit more.
Exactly.
Know? Yeah.
Or publicity, a bit more sponsorship money. You can ask bigger, better sponsors to be around longer and be like, right, okay, we're going across Europe to teams in Italy, Austria, Switzerland,
Absolutely.
Kazakhstan, some good hockey nations.
Yeah.
To and you can be there, be along for the ride. So also, I'm quite glad that the Panthers have had it, because
Yeah.
if you go to a play, I was saying this to a couple of guys at the weekend, like if you go to a player, well, come and join the Nottingham Panthers, they turn around and say, what have you done this season? Oh, we finished third. Oh, okay, how did you do in the playoffs? Oh, we lost quite dramatically in our own place
Yeah.
against the league number 2, who was number 1 for a while. Oh, okay, do you want to come and join us? Nah. You go to them and say, well, we've qualified for Europe. Oh, okay. Now you start.
Yeah, we're going to be playing teams across Europe to try and win one of the IIHF's most prestigious trophies. Oh, okay. No, that sounds quite good. Yeah, let's do it.
Exactly. You get to see Brian McGrattan, the year that we won it, was like, oh, it's great. We've got obviously more of the world playing in England than I ever have playing the sport anywhere else. So, you can kind of attract some bigger names.
Absolutely.
More maybe hopefully that relates to the league.
Yes, absolutely. So the update from Ben, the forward of the year was Darcy Murphy. I'm not surprised with that at all. Leading point scorer. The defenseman of the year was Gleeson Fournier. I'm not surprised at that at all. He had a fantastic season for the Belfast Giants. Not Belfast Giants, Cardiff Devils, sorry. He was one of those players, unless you were following Cardiff very closely, and of course, Ben, you were, he's somebody that went under the radar a little bit, I think, definitely from my perspective. Like, he's a name that I could see on the score sheet quite a lot, but then when you actually go and look at how well he's done this year, you're like, oh, wow, like, he did really well. So I'm not surprised by that pick either. I can't really think of anybody else to have been picked for Defenseman of the Year, really.
His first goal in the postseason, in the playoffs, was the game-winning goal in the final.
Really? Wow. What a way to score a goal, and that was a beautiful goal.
Fantastic.
Also, goaltender of the year, Tyler Beskorowany. Not surprised by that at all. It was obviously going to be a 2-horse race, him or Bounds, and Beskorowany had a... I think he did enough to kind of make him the front runner for that trophy. The coach of the year, Adam Keefe. I get the choice, but Paul Dixon would have been my choice. The British player of the year was Kieran Long, which I think is a good choice. He had a fantastic year with the Manchester Storm. Once again, can't really think of anybody else that had that kind of breakout year as a British player. We had British players that continued to play well like they have done, but in terms of one that sort of had that breakout year, I don't know. Then player of the year, Tyler Beskorowany. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that either. Gets goaltender and player of the year. I mean, I think that's well deserved. He won his team 2 out of the 3 trophies and put up some pretty awesome stats while doing it. And young Brit of the year was Cowney. So yes, is that what's Cowney's first name? I can't remember.
Ross Cowney?
Yeah, it's either Ross or Jordan. I can't remember.
Oh, it could be Jordan. It's Coventry Blaze, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Then again, I thought he was a lot older. I might be thinking of somebody completely different.
It's not young Brit of the year, though, is it? It is young Brit.
Yeah, it's young British player of the year. So Jordan Cowney. Somebody's saying Jordan Cowney. There you go. Okay. I must admit, didn't really know a huge amount about the Coventry Blaze squad this year, so I would imagine it's very much well deserved. So
well, that's good. Sunday.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, I don't know much about the Scottish teams. I know a little bit about Glasgow. Speaking of Glasgow, see, that was a good little segue, wasn't it? Not just a pretty face, ladies and gents. So it was announced last week, April 10th to be exact, so about 5 days ago, that the Glasgow Clan have re-signed head coach Pete Russell for the 1920 season to continue his role as the head coach of the team. He is, of course, the Team GB head coach as well. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by this either. And then that was quickly followed on by announcement by the Glasgow Clan that they've made some changes to the players in their lineup. So, they have moved on from 4 players already, which, I mean, considering... this was announced on April 11th, so this was a day after the re-signing. This didn't take very long for him to... because when it was announced, the re-signing of Pete Russell, the Clan's CEO, Gareth Chalmers, said, Pete has already started the process of retaining a core of this season's team and recruiting his main targets. Which also means he's now started the process of shifting some of the players that he either aren't going to be on the roster next year or aren't quite good enough to be on the roster next year, blah, 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 blah. He's made some changes. So, netminder Joel Rumpel, defenseman Zach Sullivan, and Michael Gottwald, and winger Vaclav Stupka have all left the club as the Clan start to get ready for the new season. Now, I must admit, the biggest one I was quite shocked with was Zach Sullivan. And the reason I say that is, for those of you who don't know, he won Young British Defenseman of the Year twice, and he's won 4 Gardner Conference titles with the Clan since signing with them from the Basingstoke Bison. He's 24 years old. He seemed quite an important part of that Braehead, now Glasgow Clan team. So I would not be surprised if he got signed by one of the big arena teams. Like, he's one of those sort of high caliber players by the looks of it. Sullivan's made 300 appearances with the team. He joined the team 5 years ago. So he joined as a 19-year-old. He spent pretty much all of his pro career with the Clan. And he put out a tweet saying, "The toughest week of my career being told I wasn't being signed back with the Clan. Thank you to Gareth Chalmers, also Ryan Finnerty for putting your faith in me 5 years ago. Love this club and wish it all the best in the future." So Zach Sullivan, like, I think if he had his way, he probably would have been back next year. But of course, the team wants to... They came 4th in the league this year, so they want to try and make some changes to their lineup and keep the players that fulfilled the role that Pete Russell had for them, find some other players that can essentially tip them over the edge. So, yeah, Max, what do you think about Pete Russell coming back to the Clan for next year, and what do you think about these players moving on?
The players moving on, it happens every year. You kind of got to, like, expect it. You're gonna, you maybe retain as many players as you probably don't retain as many players as you think.
Yeah,
and you get a fresh load of faces in. The Zach Sullivan one, Ben just put up. They signed him because they signed him to be an under 23 Brit. So ticking off
right,
two needs. Yeah. Now that he's 24,
fulfills the quota. I
think you can find a solid place within the league or even overseas. He's a name that I kind of recognise as being a good player, being a solid defenseman. So, and the fact that he's a Brit, he's going to get picked up. Like somebody's going to want him, even though he's over the age of the junior age limit. Somebody will definitely pick him up.
Adam has mentioned that as a Clan fan himself, he's not surprised with most of these released players, apart from Stupka, who had a brilliant season. Sullivan and Gottwald had really subpar seasons, and Rumpel was just too inconsistent. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Rumpel had a bit of a hot and cold year this year. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Stupka, because I remember, was Stupka the guy that came over for like a month? He had the month-long contract, and then he put up solid numbers, so Russell was like, stay for the rest of the year. And he was like, okay. Probably. And then he put up solid numbers for the rest of the year. I'm pretty sure we mentioned it when he was announced in earlier podcasts. The name rings a bell, you know? Yeah.
As for Pete Russell, a lot of people over the weekend were saying, "Oh, he's gonna sign with the Panthers. He's gonna sign with..." And I really hate these rumours.
Oh yeah.
Of just because Neil Black is part owner, he's not full owner of from what I realised of the Glasgow Clan.
Yeah.
And obviously he's the full owner of the Nottingham Panthers, and they think that just because he's got that connection, that players and staff just kind of freely walk between the two teams. And I think Pete Russell's made a name for himself and solidified himself in Belfast, Braehead and Glasgow. So why would he move?
And not to mention the 2 gold medals he has with Team GB either.
Exactly.
I mean, he knows. I think it's safe to say that Pete Russell knows the GB squad inside and out. Like, you know that he's picking the right British players for his roster, or the ones that fit his mentality the most, or the best ones available. So Stupka was the guy on a tryout contract. I remember the little useless pieces of information every once in a while. That's one of them. So before we move across the pond and discuss the NHL playoffs and the draft lottery in a bit of detail, just thought we'd mention them because it's the last podcast of the season. I just want to mention something that I saw earlier today. Now, Max doesn't know anything about this, but I saw a tweet earlier. I'm gonna just bring up Twitter because I sent it to Chris originally because I thought he'd be interested to see it. I'm gonna try and bring up the tweet, who it was by. Apparently Joe Thornton's going to have a hearing today for a check to the head, which is interesting.
Oh, good.
So great news for
just whilst you're finding that.
Yeah.
In the time that we've just been on the air, Patrick Munson has tweeted out first. This is a direct tweet from him. First year pro in the books, a year I will never forget. Incredible group of guys, and the Panthers fans were absolutely sensational. Couldn't be more excited for the future. And
I did. I think I saw that like half an hour before we started. So
must be slow.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, please tell me that the Panthers are in your future." I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to have Munson back. I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, it's first pro season, coming straight out of college. I think he did an all right job. You get a decent defense in front of him, I think he'll be a pretty good goaltender in the league. Anyway, so this page on Twitter, I think it's a very new page called Let's Play Hockey, at EIHL MK Hockey. They've created their very own website, right? And the tweet that they've had says, just launched our new website supporting our bid to retain Elite League Ice Hockey in Milton Keynes. We are moving quickly and there will be more news in the coming days, so please stay tuned. And they've put out a link, they've got their website. I have been looking at this website. So the website is called Keep Elite Ice Hockey in Milton Keynes. So basically, by the looks of it, let's do the About Us. Let's have a little look about this. So, currently this bid is being led by a startup board comprising Milton Keynes Lightning supporters and general ice hockey fans who simply want to secure Elite League hockey for Milton Keynes. As the bid matures and if successful, the board will seek to increase involvement of the broader supporter community, shareholders and sponsors in the running of the club. Essentially, what this is a load of fans, either of Milton Keynes or the Elite League, have got together and gone, yeah, let's bring Milton Keynes Lightning back into the Elite League. Interesting. Apparently they've got all of the names of the initial startup board, and apparently they have also credited initial insight and guidance is currently being provided by Tim Wallace, who of course, ex-NHLer, player coach of the Milton Keynes Lightning this year as well. I don't know how legitimate that statement is. I'm not sure. I don't want to go on record and say Tim Wallace wants his name associated with this. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs to this. They even have an FAQs page. Can't you just work with the Moody's to sort this out? We have not ruled out working with Monica and Graham Moody, the current MK Lightning owners. In many ways, this would be the cleanest and easiest way to move forwards and why we've reached out to them. So essentially, they're looking for sponsors and they're just looking for a general support of people to go and help support this group, whether it's financially, whether it's putting the word out there. It's a supporters-led bid to retain ice hockey there. They've got a fundraising page. They've got all this stuff going on. They need to raise funds. They need money to be able to take this bid further. They hope you share your vision. So, I'm just going to say, if you want to go and support it, it's www.letsplayhockey.org. Okay? Like, I'm going to put it out there. If you're interested in supporting it, I'll get onto my thoughts about it in a moment. But the option's there. If you really want Milton Keynes hockey to be in the Elite League next year, you're well within your right to go and check it out. Now, here's my opinion. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And the reason I say this, I don't want to be like, oh, Milton Keynes, you shouldn't do this because you were shit last year. Like, that's not fair on the fans and on the players and on the team that was in place. I can completely sympathise with Milton Keynes Lightning fans who were told by their owners at least one and maybe even several points during the season that they were going to be in the Elite League for the 1920 season. I completely sympathise, and I can understand that the die-hard Milton Keynes fans would be incredibly annoyed with something like that, right? Like, I think that's fair. Like, you are well within your right to be pissed off by that. I would be if I was a Milton Keynes Lightning fan. I just don't see why they would want to be the league's whipping boy for another year. And of course you could be like, oh, it's another year, like, with more money, perhaps, it's better recruitment, we can get better, a more permanent coach in for the season, have a better structure in place. They are all valid points, I will make that clear. However, the Milton Keynes are kind of the exact opposite of the Guildford Flames since they joined the Elite League. Milton Keynes have taken the role that we expected from both those teams when they started in the league. It's kind of like Vegas in the NHL. You expect the team to not do very well because they're the newbies. You expect them to come in, take a few years to understand how it all works, to get a system in place, to get everything sorted out. However, I don't think the Milton Keynes Lightning should be in the Elite League next year. I personally don't think they should be there. I don't think it's the right move for the morale of the fans. I don't think it's the right thing in terms of the club's success, their financial success as well. They move down to the second tier. They have more of a chance of competing for a championship. It costs less. They have a better chance to recruit British players. They don't have. I think they only have like a 2-player import max, as opposed to the 12 or 14 of the Elite League. I can't quite remember the number off the top of my head. But yeah, I commend these Milton Keynes fans for doing this. But I think when you're asking for money from people to do something that is, for all intents and purposes, a uphill battle, like, it's not going to go very well, I wouldn't imagine. And you're asking people to commit probably a noticeable amount of change towards something like this, noticeable amount of cash. I think that's it's a minefield. Because on the one hand, you're like, yeah, another team in the Elite League would be great. Yeah, let's keep it at 11. But if the team isn't stable enough to be there, which by the sounds of it, they're not, and hearing and seeing some of the things that have been published, especially towards the end of the year, how the fact they still haven't paid their old head coach that they fired halfway through the season, they still haven't paid him back for certain things, which I've made a video on if you want to go look up more about that. I think the fans, I credit them for wanting to make a change, and of course, if they didn't do this, then there'd probably be no chance of any change happening. I just don't think it's gonna happen. And I don't think it should happen. I think the league should go back to a 10-team league for the time being until teams come, because it makes more sense logistically, and also it gives the league a chance to go, okay, so let's figure out the financial plans. Is there a way that we can get some of the teams that don't have as big budgets into the league for following seasons? You know? What do you think, Max? Do tell me what you think.
It's a nice idea. It's a really nice idea, and something that came up the fan forum I was talking about earlier is Todd Kelman said, he spoke directly at the guy who asked the question, which I thought was quite nice. He was a Milton Keynes fan. Okay. Who asked, would they let Milton Keynes back in again? And Todd Kelman said, with the right management, with the right team behind the scenes, yes, they would. Yeah. But think about if you pluck a number out of the air that you think it would take to set up an Elite League team, double it, then double it again, and then add a bit of change on top. Yeah. So I think it's really nice that fans want to get together and do this, but he said like getting 5 friends together and putting in 10 grand, or even 10 friends together and putting 5 grand in each, you're barely even going to get off the ground.
Yeah, that might get you like 2 contracts.
Yeah, not even that. It might buy you the ice time. It might even get you a coach. Yeah, but it ain't gonna get you the players. It ain't gonna get you the equipment. It ain't gonna get you anything. Like, just to start up, before you even get sponsorship, you have to have something for somebody to sponsor.
Yep.
Like, you're not just going to get any old Joe blog just turning up and saying, "Oh yeah, I'll give you 20 grand to put my company name on your jersey, or sponsor the shorts, or this that, and the other," or unless you have a product to sell.
Yeah.
So, as much as it's nice, I think Milton Keynes bite the bullet. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of weight that fans can hold in this arena of sports. We've seen it happen in Nottingham. I'm pretty sure it was covered on podcasts last season with the supporters club, or the Nottingham Ice Hockey Supporters Club. They weren't allowed to say Panthers in their name. It's nice. It's lovely thought. It's fantastic. I'd love to see Milton Keynes. I'd love to see a 12 league team. I'd love to see a 15 league team. I'd love to see umpteen. But until the infrastructure is there, it's not going to happen. So be thankful that the second tier league has come in.
Yeah.
And that you're going to be playing competitive games.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're going to be a competitive team. And you can be proud to think that you're going to be one of the bigger names within that league and competing solidly throughout the year. And it was unfortunate what happened to you this season. It was unfortunate what happened to you in the Elite League. But build from there, get it right, and then move up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say we need a promotion relegation system, because I don't think that's going to work.
No.
Because
I think you said, if the infrastructure was there, then I think it would work. But it's not there, like you've mentioned.
No, and it's nice that the fans want to do this, and I fully support fan-based ventures, but trying to get Elite League hockey back into an arena or a city where they basically want to take over the club, and
pretty much.
Like, if an organisation can't get the money, because it was a lot financial based that they couldn't.
Money was a big
to stay in the league.
Money was a big reason, which it always is with the Elite League.
Totally, and like the budget has to be right.
Yeah,
and it has to be right at any league at any level. So it's nice that the fans can think they can do this, but I think this is gonna flitter out, unfortunately. And I think that what they should do is collectively, as a group, they should come together, get a pool of money, and become the main team sponsor.
Yeah,
become the biggest sponsor they can be year on year, to make their team as competitive as possible.
And to kind of gain a bit of sway and gain a bit of a voice within the organisation. Yeah, and
that's the way that I would, if they were listening right now, and if they ever do listen, I'll be surprised. But I would say get yourselves together, get yourselves as a sponsorship deal, as a main team sponsor, and back this team in this lower league, so that in years to come, they'll be able to bring Elite League hockey. They will be able to get what they want, but they'd have to go about it a different way. Just change the dynamic. Not the way they're going about it right now. But like I said, bring money into the club. Bring people in to watch. Do all you can as a fan, which is promote sport personally and support the team that you want to support. That's the way that you can affect change.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the little things that make the big difference, and I think they're trying to jump in without. You hear fans all the time like, "Oh, I could do a better job than the owners."
Yeah.
To be fair, the Milton Keynes Lightning owners, they've had their fair share of mistakes this year. But I don't think the average fan is going to be able to do any better. I could say "Oh, this team's awful and they're run awfully." But I don't know. I wouldn't know the first thing to begin with on how to fix something. I'm a fan. Fans are allowed to criticise, but I am, and I think Max, I would argue the same. We are fully aware we have no experience in running a hockey team, so we wouldn't know where to start, and most fans wouldn't. You know, like that's why so many jobs are taken by ex-players and things like that, because they've been in that system for so long. They pick up things as they go along, and then they transition into more of that front office role to get an idea of what's going on. So yeah,
I would say that the handful of people that are watching right now, or even if you're watching after this podcast has come out, a little test for you guys. Get yourselves a pen and paper, start at the top, and write a list of all the things that you think go into a hockey club, starting with like head coach, sponsorship deals, ice time, and keep going and see how long that list gets. And you'll be surprised that you'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Oh yeah, I forgot that. Oh, the team's got to pay for this. He's got to pay for travel. You've got to pay for hotels. You've got to pay for ref fees, and there's all sorts. Signing up to the league is a cost. There's loads of extra little things that the fans don't really think about, and if they took the time to think about it, they'd be like, oh shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a lot more to this hockey thing than just throwing 20 guys out on a bench with a coach and saying, off you go, give it a whack this puck in the net.
To be fair, like, mentioning what you're saying like, on the joining the league fees, like, look at the new Seattle franchise, for example.
Yeah.
They're going to have paid, in terms of building the arena
billion?
As well, over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion. I thought the signing in fee was like...
Oh, no, it's not. No, sorry, not $1 billion. It's like $100 million.
Yeah,
and that's the best league in the world. $100 million. You know, it's like I completely agree with you there, Max, and some people in the chat are as well. Like,
oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's not just going, oh, let's just sign it. It's not like playing be a GM mode. Like, and that's what people think.
You can go and sit on NHL 19 and play franchise mode, and change cities at a drop of a hat, or you can go into Eastside Hockey Manager and do your scouting and this, that, and the other. But set your how much you want your hot dogs to sell for, your tickets you want to sell for. There's so much other stuff you want to go.
Actually,
into.
No, I think it is $1 billion. Yeah, because it's like I think they have to pay like $500 million just to join the league.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous sum.
I think it is $1 billion. Can somebody fact check that for me? And the reason I bring up the Seattle team, we're moving on to the NHL now because it's starting to run a little bit out of time. So I'm just going to go over the playoff brackets just in case you haven't been paying attention. Which I mean,
haven't.
Have you not?
With the playoffs going off this
Fair
weekend.
point. Right, you are in for a couple of surprises here, Max. So Western Conference.
I've heard a few things.
Yeah, Western Conference. Nashville and Dallas tied 1-1. So the second set of Game 3s are taking place tonight. That's the context of where we're at. Tied at 1, Nashville and Dallas for the first bracket of the Western Conference. The St. Louis Blues are leading the Winnipeg Jets 2-1.
I like the Blues. I like Cam Jansen. I like the sound of that.
Jordan Binnington has been tearing up for that team. St. Louis won the first 2 games of that series, but Winnipeg have won the most recent one. They put up 6 goals on Binnington, I think. So Winnipeg.
Who had home ice advantage on that? Did they play 2 games in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
Oof.
So the home team hasn't won any game in that series so far. Then Calgary and Colorado, they are tied at 1 game each. Vegas and San Jose. Vegas are leading 2-1. The first 2 games are played in San Jose.
Yeah, I saw that Evander Kane had a fight with
Ryan Reeves.
There's a little clip just before was the shot clock was fading out, and it was like 6-3 or 6-2 to the Vegas.
I believe the game ended 6-2. Mark Stone had a hat trick. He had a 5-point night.
Nice.
Carry on. So this is the big one. The Columbus Blue Jackets are leading 3-0 on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
President's Trophy curse. I tell you what, the sign that coach and that GM has got to be like rubbing their hands, thinking that trade deadline deal, all those big moves.
Yep,
I did right.
But to be fair, it's not over till they've won 4 games. I'm just going to put it out there now.
Understand it, but people were saying like, oh, if the Columbus don't make the playoffs, he's going to get,
very true, very true.
Get gone, but now that they've done this, I'm pretty sure he's safe.
Well, if they blow a 3-win lead, Like,
Yeah,
ooh.
against the league leaders, like,
Yeah, no, and,
come on.
don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like, Columbus have done a fucking awesome job so far. But what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is the job's not done yet. You know.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Then with the Boston and Toronto series, they are tied at 1 game each. Toronto took game 1, Boston took game 2. Both games were in Boston. We moved to the Scotiabank Arena for game 3. If Premier Sports haven't got that one on tonight, which they probably have, because, right, I would just want to bitch about Premier Sports for a minute, right? They got exclusive rights to game 1 and game 2 of every single series. Every time they do that, I can't watch it on NHL TV. I pay $20 a month to watch NHL on NHL TV. Stop blacking out my fucking games, Premier Sports. It's annoying. Anyway, moving on.
Carry on.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single playoff game so far this year because they've taken every single fucking one. It pisses me off. So the Washington Capitals against the Carolina Hurricanes. Washington have a 2-0 series lead. They did win the last game in overtime though. They were 2-0 up and 3-2 up, I believe. And Carolina came back both times to take it to OT. And then for the final bracket, the New York Islanders are leading 3-0 on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Which I think is a quite impressive one, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd quite like to see a Islanders Maple Leafs showdown.
Social media would go mental for that.
How amazing would that be for a conference final?
All of the hockey YouTubers would be basically jizzing in their pants, wouldn't they?
Oh, that is view central. That is, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I don't think it will happen, if I'm honest with you. But
yeah, they'll have to probably get past Washington first, which is a tough gambit. But then again, Barry Trotz, and he's done a fantastic job with that team. The goaltending has stepped up this year.
Definitely.
Matthew Barzell is leading that team. Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, like, they're doing the job. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to be at this point, and they've got the chance to sweep a team that's won 2 cups in the last 3 years. So, like, they've done an alright job for themselves. Pittsburgh are not an easy team. I don't think Sidney Crosby has scored a point either so far this series.
Well, this is the decline. This is what you've got to go through as a hockey fan. Fortunately, it doesn't stay rosy all this time. You've won your cups. You've now just unfortunately got to sit through the pain of, like, okay, maybe a first-round exit, maybe a second-round exit, maybe not making it, and then your players getting older and you've got to start that rebuild. And
it's even worse. It's even worse when you've gone through all that and you come, like, 3 wins away from a cup. Thanks, New York Rangers. Moving on.
Yeah. Well, it could be worse. You could be a Vancouver fan.
Speaking of the New York Rangers, the draft lottery. Ooh. I'm just on it with these segues today, boys. I didn't even plan any of these. Just making it up as I go along.
This is
why I'm an entertainer on YouTube. So the draft lottery took place about 4 days ago. No, it was last week, wasn't it? April 9th, I believe. And of course, the Colorado Avalanche had the highest percentage chance to take the first overall pick. Of course, that was from the Ottawa Senators, who had an abysmal year, I think it's safe to say. And Ottawa fans, of course, wanted the Colorado Avalanche to do as badly as possible. And unfortunately for Avalanche fans, that kind of happened. But luckily for Rangers fans, we had a fucking great night. So, the first overall pick has gone to the New Jersey Devils. The second time in 3 years they have got that number 1 pick. The New York Rangers have the second overall pick. We're getting Kako, lads. I love it. And then with the third overall pick, the Chicago Blackhawks. So I loved seeing all the people going like, oh, it's rigged. Oh, all the big market teams. The big market teams all got it. I'm going to preface this by saying, New Jersey, you can make an argument for that. Chicago, yeah, to an extent, but they haven't really had a very high pick since they drafted Taves or Kane.
Yep.
I'm going to defend my Rangers here. Of course I'm biased, but I think this is a fair point. I mentioned this on my Discord. The New York Rangers have not had a top 3 pick in the draft since the 1967 expansion. Since the NHL entry draft came into existence, they have never had a top 3 pick. They were due, you know? Like, I don't think fans can say, oh, it's a bigger market, they were rigged. They've never had a top 2 pick before. They've never had the first overall pick either. Like, I know it's like they're in a rebuild and they need it more than some of the other teams, so you could argue, oh, because they're the biggest market in the league, or one of the biggest markets, they bring in the most revenue, so of course they need that. yeah, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's not as if they're Edmonton have won it 5 fucking years in a row. Like, we're talking like it's been a decade since they were even in the draft lottery. Like, they made good on the picks that they made. You know, I just hate all of this. Like, oh, the draft was rigged, and Colorado fans like, oh, the draft was rigged. You got the 4th overall pick, you've got Cal Maker coming in, and you're in the fucking playoffs, for God's sake. What are you complaining about? Like, it's not as if you tanked the season and then got the 4th overall pick. Like, you had a shit season, but you made the playoffs, and you're tied with Calgary at the moment. It wasn't even your fucking pick to begin with, so what are you whinging about?
And speaking of winning like 5 times in a row, the best tweet of the off season or post season has got to go to Taylor Hall.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been on the winning team of the NHL draft pretty much every year since he was drafted.
Yeah,
or he has been.
Yeah, I think it's 5 times now. 5 times.
And somebody did the maths. Like, it's a 1 in 1,800 and something chance of that happening, which is like ridiculous odds.
That is, yeah, absolutely
ridiculous odds.
He's a good luck charm.
You trade for Taylor Hall, and next year we will get the number 1 draft pick, and we will be set.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's the look at the draft order. Because then after when Colorado got the 4th pick, so they did the lottery based on the top 3 picks. The rest of them are just where each of the teams placed in the regular season. Missing out, of course, the Devils, Rangers, and Blackhawks where they placed. So it goes the Devils, Rangers, Blackhawks, Avalanche, Los Angeles Kings, Red Wings, Sabres, Oilers who are picking at 8th. The Anaheim Ducks at 9th. The Canucks at 10th. The Flyers, the Wild, the Panthers, the Coyotes, and the Montreal Canadiens. So yeah, that's the way it goes. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to some questions, if you have any questions, because it's the final podcast, we're kind of overrunning just a tad. The KHL playoffs, the finals are well underway. Unfortunately, SKA St. Petersburg couldn't win Game 7 against Moscow. They took a 3-1 loss. The home team won every single game in that series. And Game 2 of the Gagarin Cup finals literally ended as the podcast was on, I believe. And CSKA Moscow took a 3-0 win against Avangard, which has given them a 2-0 lead in the series. 5-2 victory in Game 1 for them, 3-0 victory in Game 2. The series will now move to Avangard, and we'll see how well it goes. Both teams, they're considered quote-unquote red teams in the league. A red team has never won the Gagarin Cup. These 2 teams have never won it, so history's going to be made regardless of who gets it. So I'll be very interested to see who wins the cup here. So yeah, that's a look at the KHL playoffs. So yeah, now we've pretty much come to the end of the final Icing on the Skate podcast. If you have any questions, we're on the last call, so if you have any questions that you want to ask, either me or Max specifically, anything that you want us to talk about that we mentioned earlier and didn't get onto, anything that we haven't spoken about that you'd like us to discuss. One thing I will mention, the Team Finland women's team were absolutely robbed of a gold medal. If you haven't heard about it, go and look it up. Essentially, they scored a goal in overtime to win the gold medal game. The equipment was flying everywhere. Fans were buzzing. They were loving it. It was the best time. The Team Finland women won the gold medal. I don't know if it's their first gold medal ever in the women's tournament. They won it. They beat USA, a tough team. USA and Canada very much leading the way in the women's game. So that they were doing a fantastic job there. But then the goal was disallowed for goaltender interference. Game goes to a shootout. USA wins. Which I think is fucking bollocks. I will admit, haven't seen a replay of the goal, but even sort of American female hockey players and North American and Canadian female hockey players are saying that wasn't goaltender interference, that was a goal. So, take from that what you will. I honestly think a lot of people saying that Finland have been robbed of a championship. It's on my list to go and look at what actually happened in that game, but yeah. What's the last message? Oh, okay. So the chat is still going. The chat was very quiet for a while. I thought my chat had crashed.
Yeah.
You were saying Canada were the last 5 finals before this. Finland's never won. Exactly. Finland were absolutely robbed. A lot of people saying that they should appeal it to the IIHF. I think they should. I would be so pissed off if I was Team Finland. They won that game. They won it in overtime, fair and square. But yeah, so regarding the channel, over the next few weeks, I'm hoping to have a list video out in a couple of days. Like a top 5, top 10 list. You'll see what it is in a few days. Gonna have another Pee-wee to Pro video out on Friday, hopefully. The one thing I will mention, though, there will be no video this weekend. And the reason I mention that, I'm not actually going to be here. I'm going to be in Sheffield. Yes, so...
a little bit closer.
Yeah, exactly. So the Super Series UK, you may remember that I made a video on it about a month ago or so. It's a big charity game that is being held in the Fly DSA Arena in Sheffield for a... what's it called? For concussion charities, stop concussions and things like that, which I've never played hockey, and but I would imagine Max could attest to this as well. The increased knowledge and understanding of CTE and concussions is so important in terms of players still playing the game and their life following the game, because like we've seen, of course, players in the NHL due to concussions take their lives, which is absolutely awful. We've seen it cause really bad mental health problems with players that don't get treated or the signs don't get picked up soon enough, and it can affect their life after hockey. Because I mean, everybody thinks once their career ends, you don't have to care about that player, but their life doesn't end after that. They've still got the majority of their life to live, hopefully. And yeah, I just think like. They asked me a couple of months ago if I wanted to be a member of the media for the event. I just had an email through today about some of the stuff for the media event. I'm the real deal, lads. I'm going to get invited to the press conferences and everything. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm going to be at the game on the Saturday. I will make a video about it. Hopefully I'll get the chance to interview some of the players. The likes of Kyle Quincy, Rene Bork, those guys are there. There's lots of career AHLers there. Some guys from the Elite League. We got several Coventry Blaze players definitely turning up. I believe Ben Lake and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, I must admit. The list is probably on their website, I would imagine. But yeah, I will smarten up, Ben. Don't you worry. I'll make sure I look appropriate. But yeah, I'm going to be doing that. If you're interested and you live near the Sheffield area, I'm sure there's still tickets available if you're interested in coming down. It's going to be a fun game. Players from Canada against players from the USA, all going at it in a charity game, raising money for these awesome charities. There's going to be some other cool stuff there, some really awesome merch. Looking at it, they've still got plenty of players to announce over this week, so go check out their Twitter as well. I'm not being paid to do this. Nobody's being paid to do this. Not even the players are being paid to take part in the event. It's all for charity. It's all something that the players and the media, like, it's important to them because they know one hit and that could be their career done. Like, yeah. And the fact that there are charities out there to try and help players post-career and sort of understand what's happening, that's brilliant. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, no video this weekend. I usually spend all weekend editing or recording, so no whatever happened to, no bonus video. You got one yesterday, you can't complain. So yeah, yeah, that's pretty much everything from me. Anything you want to say, Max, on the final podcast?
No, just to echo what we just said last podcast. It's been great, and I'm looking forward to more of it next season.
Absolutely.
I am in the process of buying my tickets for the weekend.
Good man.
Summer Series USA Canada that you spoke about just a second ago. Fingers crossed I can get hold of the ticket for a little bit of extra access to meet the players, etc. Because
good idea.
There's one guy that I really want to meet, and that is Kevin Bieksa.
Yes, of course. Yes, he's there. Yeah.
So he's those of you who don't know, he's a Vancouver Canuck. I'm ex-Vancouver Canuck. I'm a massive Canucks fan. But he had a friend whilst playing, a very dear friend, go through some mental illness. Not through a concussion, I will admit, but something that I know that he has close to his heart through a guy who used to play, a guy called Rick Rippon.
Yes.
If you don't know his name, I'll be surprised if you're a hockey fan, but definitely go and check out his story.
But both him and Derek Bugard as well.
Yeah.
Two names that, if you're interested in learning more about sort of the effects of CTE, like those are two guys that you should really go look up. I know this has turned a little bit dark towards the end, but it's quite important stuff to talk about, I feel like.
Yeah, and as a player, you try not to think about it. It's not a fear.
No.
You shouldn't really have fear stepping out onto the ice and playing a game that you love. But it is in the back of your mind when you see someone get hit, or you see someone trip and slip into the boards, or go into the sort of a goal, or are coming together. It is on your mind. Or if a stick gets high, like it doesn't have to be these massive body collisions that that cause these injuries. And I know it is a bit, but it's something that needs to be spoke about. It hasn't been spoke about in sports since before this time. It's like it's been forgotten. It's been swept under the rug.
That's the big thing. The big sports leagues just trying to, if they can hide it under the rug, they will. But to cut this short, because I'm running out of time, so I'll go watch Game of Thrones. So Game of Thrones season 8, go watch it if you're interested. Starts at 9 o'clock. I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna be great. I can't remember what happened last season, but I'm gonna watch it. Just to echo what Max said, actually. Thank you for those of you that have watched since the first episode, since last episode, whenever you've tuned in. And whenever you've started watching the podcast, whether you watched it for a little bit and you weren't that interested and came back later on, thank you. We wouldn't have done this podcast all season if nobody wanted to watch it. So hopefully we'll get a bit more of a following. I'm considering maybe doing one podcast for the Elite League, one podcast for the NHL. That way the audiences might know exactly what they're getting. I think it's been a bit confusing. Some people have tuned in because they want to talk NHL stuff, and if they tune in the first 20 minutes, they're not really that interested until the next hour, and they might leave and feel like, I'm not interested, and vice versa for those that want to spend an hour and a half talking about the Elite League. So I'll go back to the drawing board. It's been very awesome to have you guys here. I know we haven't talked to the chat a huge amount throughout the podcasts. That's because we usually have quite a lot to talk about. And then we like to come to the chat at the end like we have today. But thank you for supporting the Icing on the Skate podcast for, I think this is the 26th episode we've done this year. We, of course, had the first few episodes to trial it when the World Championships were on last year. If you guys want it back next year, do let me know, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Discord. Do let me know, because if you guys want it and there's enough people that want it, we will do it again. If people are like, nah, focus on other stuff, I'll focus on other stuff. Because, I mean, I sit here for like an hour and a half every Monday. I could do something else if you guys would rather me do something else. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this entire series, season, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully we'll be back for another one next year. I'll try and upload a video later this week. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you around. Bye.
Take care.